Hey, everybody, and we are back for the end of year review, part two. I'm Jeremy Schulman, your host at FF Rebel with Jesse Moeller. Jesse, how are you?
I'm doing well. As you can see, I'm dealing with the loss of the Huskies last night. That was a rough game to watch, unfortunately. But bad matchup for them is what it is. But overall, yeah, pretty good. I'm ready to hop into Dynasty mode. But before we do that, we got some last end of year stuff we'd like to cover this year to talk about 2023 to kick it off with a bang. So how are you feeling about this? How are you doing with everything?
Yeah, doing good. As a indoctrinated Ohio State fan, my grandfather went to Ohio State, and my memories of him are just like perched in front of the televisions on Saturdays with a beer,
Mhm.
and watch those games growing up. Yeah, don't like the Michigan win at all. But if I start telling people that I'm an Ohio State fan and New England Patriots fan from New York, I get the front runner label. So it is what it is. But yeah, don't pay too much attention on the college side anymore over here in Amsterdam.
Yeah,
3 nights a week of sleepless nights during football season is enough for me and my family who hate it.
yeah, I would say so. Yeah, don't tell Aaron you're an Ohio State fan. I think he
Yeah,
might have some issues with that. I don't know.
loose fandom. It's a loose fandom for sure.
Yeah, that's me.
Uh,
That's me with the Huskies. Yeah.
but yeah, listen, we're already talking about the national championship, so we know the fantasy season is over. But we're here to recap it. In part one, we talked about quarterbacks and wide receivers. And played a few games. We're going to play a couple more games today with Jesse, and we're going to test his knowledge once again. He crushed him last time, so I'm expecting some an even better performance this week in getting these games. And if you're watching with us, you can play along. Jesse, are you ready to dominate once again?
Oh, baby, I love the way you're phrasing this. I am so ready to absolutely just throw the gauntlet down. Well, hopefully I can do as well as last time. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Just so you know, I made sure to make the questions much more difficult. So let's see if you get one right. We'll we'll see how it goes from
Jesus
here. Uh,
Christ. Okay. I'm screwed,
but last
folks.
time
I'm
with
screwed.
with QBs, we did guano or bat shit, which was basically true or false. With RBs, we did the 2 minute drill, which I rapid fired questions at Jesse about running backs for 2 minutes, which was interesting. This time, we're going to start off with wide receivers, and we're going to play 2 feet and or a cheek, which is like two truths or a lie, and we have to figure out, Jesse, if you can guess which facts are 1 and 2 feet down, and which one is cheeks. Just totally untrue. It's not going to count in this game, even though it counts in the end zone and on the sideline. So we're going to see if you can get it. I have two truths and a lie. I have 5 questions here for wide receivers. So let's just jump into it and see how well you do. Are you ready?
Oh, baby, I am so ready. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. And so I should say these include up and through week 18. So the entire football season, not just the fantasy season. Here we go. All right. Question number one, two truths and a lie. Tell me which one is the cheeks, Jesse. Tyreek Hill leads all wideouts in TD receptions. Debo Samuel leads all wideouts in rushing touchdowns. CD Lamb leads all wideouts in targets.
So I'm going to say it is Debo is the cheeks. And I don't know how I feel about that one, but that's what I'm going with.
Debo is true, and it was by a lot. I believe he had 5 rushing touchdowns on the season, which was at least 2, maybe 3 above the next player who was probably a teammate on San Francisco, or Rondale Moore, if I remember correctly. But actually, the incorrect answer is Tyreek Hill does not lead all wide receivers in touchdown receptions. In fact, at the time that I wrote this question, he was one behind Mike Evans. Now he is tied with Mike Evans at 13 TDs on the season. CD Lamb almost snuck in there with 12. But yeah, Tyreek Hill, surprising that I didn't hit 2,000 yards. He's absolutely doing some, where am I? Over here. Doing some God mode shit over in Miami this year and probably next year. But listen, health caught up to him. And no, just only 13 touchdowns this season, Jesse. Only 13.
What a shame. What a shame.
Yeah, and CD Lamb absolutely dominated, especially in 18. Even in week 17, he was leading all wideouts and targets. I mean, that man has just been a monster. You couldn't get a much better schedule for the Dallas Cowboys. And, he made the most of it.
No, yeah, it's a lot. He dominated the playoffs. It's like an absurd stat line. I think he averaged over like 30 points per game or something the last 3 weeks of the season. So yeah, he was carrying your squads. I feel
Insane.
Thank you.
All right, so that's question number 1. Let's get back in the wing column for you, Jesse. Let me know with question number 2, which are the 2 feet and which is cheeks, which is the lie. The following receivers have over 100 receptions on the season: Adam Thielen, Michael Pittman Jr., DJ Moore.
So I know it's Michael Pittman. He's got the most. See, this is the hard part because Thielen was hyper targeted earlier in the year. DJ Moore also saw a lot of targets. It's close. I just really think Chicago's offense really stifled DJ Moore enough where he did not get there, but I feel like he's really close. So I will go DJ Moore, and I don't feel 100% confident about that. That's going to be a guess.
And the answer is DJ Moore is the not correct answer. DJ Moore did not have 100 receptions. Quick guess, how many receptions do you think DJ Moore had?
Like 92, sure.
Close. 96 receptions for DJ Moore on the season. Absolutely crushed, dominated, ridiculous season from DJ Moore in a kind of ridiculous situation, especially going to the offseason, having no clue who his quarterback's going to be. We've talked about this before. I think they should stick with Fields. There was a report that came out today. That came out. I'm doing air quotes, by the way. Let's see. A report that came out today that they're going to look to trade the number 1 pick for a ransom. Who knows what's going to happen in Chicago? But I really think they should stick with Fields and see what they have to develop him. But yeah, Adam Thielen dominated the beginning of the season. Michael Pittman was an absolutely quarterback proof. So yeah, DJ Moore almost got to 100 receptions.
Yeah, I'd say if he had Fields all year, he would have got over 100 yards, but freaking Tyson Bagent really just put the shackles on my boy.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, Big Daddy Pizza. I think you did pretty well with Kyron and Bijan. I mean, Kyron was the true RB1, but not bad. That's well done. Well done on that year.
Yeah, but here's the real question, and make sure I'm pointing all different directions. This guy up here were Kyron and Bijan better than the Polk High All-Star
absolutely
running back?
That's the Polk legend right there. 4 tutties and like 300 yards, whatever it was that one day.
Unbelievable.
Oh, legend. So good. So good. That's just us in like 20 years.
Yeah. 20 years. Bro, that's me now. Minus the misogyny. That's pretty much me.
Just a bit. Yeah, he looks so old. He's probably like 35, 40, but he looks like he's like 60 just because he's back in the 80s.
Bundy. Amazing. What a great show. And a terrible show at the same time.
Yes, not PC. Definitely not.
Lamb, Kyron, Bijan, you crushed it, Big Pizza Daddy.
Let's go championship. Well, yeah, Lamb will do that. Lamb won me some titles, so salute to you for getting Lamb on your squad. Well done. That's what I'm talking about.
All right. So Jesse is 1 for 2. We're on to question number 3, and again, 2 feet or a cheek, which is the lie. Mike Williams is was top 12 in points per game this season. Nico Collins was top 12 in total fantasy points, or Michael Pittman was top 12 in total yards.
Ooh, that's actually like Mike Williams jumps out to you, but like I don't even remember his stats from the year, so I have no idea what Mike Williams did. Like you could ask me, but I don't have a clue. He got injured early on. That's the one that jumps out to me, so I'm gonna go. It's probably the old like slide it in there to take me out with it. But yeah, I'm gonna say it's Mike Williams is the cheek.
Yeah, it's the old slide it in there to take you out with it. Mike Williams was 10th in points per game, 16.7 points per game. Of course, he only played 3 games. So, yeah, the ultimate terrible quiz show question. You're welcome.
Should have known better. Should have known better.
The correct answer, and I'm going to find my document, Michael Pittman was 14th in total yards with 1,104 yards. Originally, this question was DK Metcalf, but DK was a lot closer to that top 12 mark than he was after his Week 18 performance. He dropped down to 18th. So yeah. Michael Pittman, 14th in total yards. But the other interesting thing, Mike Williams, but Nico Collins, top 12 in total fantasy points, absolutely dominant. CJ Stroud is a monster and has some monster weapons. What do you think about Nico and Houston?
He was awesome. I think he was like top. He was even better on like points per game basis because he missed a couple of games, didn't he? He missed like 2 or 3 games this year.
Yep.
And so yeah, like he was the ones like you just want the guys attached to CJ Stroud. That's why like I'm all aboard the Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Like give me all of those guys. If you have Stroud, go get those guys out of your squad. Like it's good. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Reminds me of the Colts back in the day. Just all the weapons. I want them all.
We were having this debate in the chat earlier, and it's not a popular opinion, but give me Tank Dell over Puka Nacua long term. And really, it's just the QB situation, right? It's you got CJ Stroud, young, looking elite. That I don't see that changing. Versus Matt Stafford, just 37, 38 years old at this point. The concern is just for me is longevity. I love the idea of Tank and Nico with Stroud for the next 10 years, potentially, if they can hold on to all those guys.
Yeah, I think that's a easy way to get a plus, particularly with the injury with Tank.
Oh, yeah.
So like, and Puka just set the rookie record. Like that's absurd stuff. And you know, they're both just really good. I honestly I don't care. Fantastic. Like whichever's cheaper, give me them. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, like if I was picking them straight up on the draft, I would take Puka, but they're like back in my back rankings are both top 12. They're pretty much back to back. I think it's like 10 and 11. I actually know Puka might be a bit higher, but I need to double check. But yeah, I'm on board. We want both of those guys.
Oh, absolutely. Question number 4, moving right along. Which one is the lie? Jaden Reed is not a wide receiver 2 by total points. Cooper Kupp is not a wide receiver 3 by total points. T. Higgins is not a wide receiver 4 by total points.
Oh, that's tough. I know T really struggled this year, and people probably think it's him. So he's the guy, top 4 though. So is that 48 wide receiver? Oof, that is deep, man. That's deep in the pockets. Yeah, like it is just such a bad year for T. I am going to take the little bait, and I'm going with T. Higgins here, outside top 48. Did he make top 48? I don't know. But
he didn't. And let me just double check. But I think I botched that one. I think there were 2 lies in this one because I was scrambling to fix these questions to incorporate Week 18 information. And T laid an egg in Week 18. Is that right? That sounds right.
Yeah.
I think yeah.
Did Cooper like struggle in Week 18 as well?
Yeah. So Cooper Kupp was not a wide receiver 3. And T is not. T was a wide receiver or not a wide receiver 4. That is correct. But Jaden Reed also not a wide receiver 2. He was 25th.
So none of them got it.
Points. So yeah.
A bunch of cheeks.
We're gonna throw that out. But guess what? They're all cheeks. So you win, Jesse. You get that question right.
Cheeks.
For my incompetence, you are welcome. What's interesting about that, though, is not that Jaden Reed wasn't a wide receiver 2, but that he was so close, 25th in total fantasy points at the position. Jordan Love was fantastic. And, you know, does Reed get there if Christian Watson isn't injured for the entire season, pretty much? Probably not. But an interesting thing, and I believe it was Matt Waldman I heard talking about this. I was listening to his pod today. And he was talking about the fact that Dontavian Wicks just kind of came out of nowhere, really impressed. And he thinks the odd man out in the next year or 2 is actually Romeo Doubs, because obviously more of a red zone threat, which is great. But if you got Reed kind of moving the chains more or less, and you got Watson stretching the field more or less, certainly those guys can do more than those things. But if those are the roles, you got the seams with which choose your tight end over there, right? And then you got Wicks kind of running around like a madman, maybe crossers, things like that. That's just going to continue to be a dynamic offense, and you can offload 1 or 2. Bo Melton, Malik Heath, those guys look good, and I think that speaks more to Jordan Love, but it also could be an opportunity for them to move those guys for value.
Yeah, I think like we're talking about with Houston, it's similar to Green Bay. Like I want the two top wide receivers in Green Bay, and it's Watson and it's Reed. Like I'm not worried about Dobbs, and I know Wicks is like a fun name, and he kind of came out of nowhere, so it's like found money in a way. But yeah, I think he's going to be clearly third, and it's just like Watson's a freak athlete. You want to give him the ball. Reed does things that nobody else. Like both of those guys do things nobody else can do on the field. So like they have special talents, and like if you have special talents, like similar to Devo in San Francisco, like I want those guys on my team. Like it's just they're a lot of fun. Like just so it's just like it's a little fun aspect of it too.
Yeah, and you got to imagine with Aaron Jones, who knows what's going to happen there? But certainly a year older. AJ Dillon is not the answer, so they're going to have to figure that out. But if they can't figure that out, they're just going to be throwing the ball even more. You know what I mean? So I really love and the same in Houston. You know what I mean? So I really love. Stroud and his weapons, Love and his weapons moving forward. I think those guys, when we were ranking Tank and Puka, number 3 for me was Jaden Reed because I just absolutely love what he showed. He's above JSN for me at the moment. And again, it's just situation. It's just the long-term tie to what looks to be an elite quarterback.
Yeah, I think the rookie wide receiver is very interesting once you get past top 2 because you got Rashi right there, you have JSN. It's really pick your poison. You have Flowers, like you have a lot of good wide receivers. So
love Zay.
There's a lot of good ones. Quite the class, and we got another really good one coming in. So yeah, the rookie wide receivers and young wide receivers are set for years to come.
You know what I prefer, Jesse? I prefer fantasy points. I like those.
I like that too. Me too. I like championships. Let me tell you what. I will trade all my young players for championships.
Fair deal. All right. And the final question, wide receivers, 2 feet or a cheek. Here we go. Which one's the lie? Christian Kirk has more total fantasy points than JSN. Noah Brown has more total fantasy points than Jahan Dotson. Nelson Aguilar has more total fantasy points than Demarcus Robinson.
Oh, that last was just ugly. I don't even want to answer that.
Don't hate on my boy Demarcus Robinson like that.
The guy that you like 2 weeks ago. Like it's Demarcus Robinson time. Big yep, baby. Oh goodness. Yeah, actually. So who's the first guy that you said? Because I'm blanking on that.
All right, I'll run through them again. All right, so these are they all have more total fantasy points. Christian Kirk has more total fantasy points than JSN. Noah Brown more than Jahan Dotson. Aguilar more than Demarcus Robinson.
Oh, give me the second one. I feel like that is the most. That is the one that is cheeks. So that's what I'm going to go with. Like
you are correct.
I really don't know.
You are correct. Jahan Dotson has more. I thought that this was fascinating. More total fantasy points, being practically completely worthless for fantasy this year than Noah Brown, who was startable when he was, when Nico or Tank went out. When there was 1 or 2 guys out of that Texan offense. Those other guys were startable. If you weren't Robert Woods, you were startable, or John Mechie, but if you were starting John Mechie, you had other problems. But yeah, Christian Kirk, despite going out early in the season, earlier, mid-season, I guess you would say, had more total fantasy points than JSN. So that was just kind of a disappointment for your boys there, not getting him even more involved. That's a Geno issue, I think. Jahan Dotson, they just threw the ball like a ton, some more than Brown. And then Demarcus Robinson really came on late, but Nelson Aguilar just got the ball in the end zone. They didn't have anybody left there in Baltimore. Yeah. So what do you think about any of that? Maybe start with your Seahawks there.
Yeah, so that was a really weird year. Like there was injuries for Geno, the offense. It's just a disaster. And the thing is, like, Geno's a good quarterback, and he just kind of is not an elite quarterback. So that's kind of the decision you have to make if you're Seahawks. I don't know like who they're going to get that's better than Geno. That's the problem. Because they're gonna have to trade up, and it's gonna cost them a ton to like move up from where they're at because they're at pick 16. And like you have to get basically top 6 to get one of these quarterbacks, and I don't know how they're possibly going to do that if they're the one more in the future. They really need to fix that defense. The defense is a much bigger issue, if you ask me. So if they can figure out a way to get defense going, but like we have there's so many issues right now. Like I just look at the roster and I was like, man, we got problems. Like Wagner's leaving on, which isn't a bad thing, but Pete might go. So it's pretty like TBD in what's going on in Seattle. So I'm very interested to see the changes that are coming. There should be a lot of them. So
yeah,
here's to hoping. The fun candle of hope that will get you every year.
Listen, I got excited today because there's a Patriots Dynasty hype video trailer that came out, and maybe
Yep,
Mike Vrabel is coming back to town. Like, that's
maybe.
what
Let's do
I'm
it.
hoping for. It's really not going to change much in the long term, but at least the short term, we're grasping at straws to
That's right.
enjoy some sort of football content from the teams we
Draft
love
draft
here.
the quarterback. You pay T Higgins out the ass. You get a good wide receiver, and then you start moving on. Like it's like,
Yeah.
let's do it. I'm all aboard.
That's it. That's it. All right. So that does it for wide receivers. Let's have a look at some of the top wide receivers, Jesse, how
Okay.
they finished the fantasy season, and let's see who we like and maybe some surprises.
All right, give me 1 second. I'll pull this
Yeah.
up. It's going to give me some background music while I do this or something. All right. So here we go. So we have our wide receivers. As you can see, it's sort of by PPR because I don't care about standard and half PPR, whatever. We're gonna do PPR just because that's the most fun. But as you can see, our boy CD Lamb really like hit over 400 fantasy points, which is absurd. Like if you look at him in the beginning of the year, he was solid, right? 11, 25, 10. Really good. And then once the bye happens, shit gets wild. He starts going bonkers. I don't think he scored less than 17 fantasy points or 16. Like 16 was the lowest he had after the bye. So he was a juggernaut all to himself. Like it's just wild. And then you see names like our boy Mike Evans right next to Keenan Allen, the two old guys, along with Stephon Diggs. Actually, there's 4 old dudes back to back. So like, I get it. Some of these guys seem disappointing, like Devontae Adams, still top 10. So like overall, really good.
Yep.
Then you get into Jamar Chase with his injuries and everything in that offense, and you see the struggle at the end of the season really brought him down because 3 out of his last 4 games played, he got less than 10 points. That's Jake Browning and the fun life of that. But once you get past that, who kind of stands out for you, Jeremy?
Well, first, I just want to talk about CD Lamb for a second because their schedule was ridiculously easy, even the entire season, right? It doesn't make sense that starting off with Giants, Jets, Arizona, that he didn't have more fantasy points in the first few weeks of the season. But they were just kind of finding their legs, life without Kellen Moore, I suppose. After the bye, it was the Rams, Philly, the Giants again, Carolina, Washington, Seattle, Philly twice, obviously the worst pass defense in the league, Buffalo. They had Miami in there, but Detroit, Washington. I mean, it was just the cakewalk of a schedule all season long. This is the reason that I wanted Dak. This is the reason why I went out and got CD in a couple of places because this schedule is just bananas good. And they came through, right? That's what you want elite players to do is put up elite performances when they're playing subpar secondaries. And that's what CD Lamb did all season long, especially in the second half. So absolutely phenomenal effort from him. Amon-Ra at 3. I mean, Amon-Ra is great. There's nothing. You can't take anything away from him. But at 3, and it looks like he's at 4 in points per game. That's fantastic. I mean, he was probably what 6, 7 on the season, so it's not a massive value jump for him. But really, just seeing the consistent high level production continue, I think that's fantastic effort from him. Obviously, Puka Nacua comes out of nowhere, and Nico Collins ascending. Those 2 guys, especially Puka and Nico, are just super interesting in terms of what they're going to do long term. And I think, as we've already discussed, both of them, they're both going to be amazing, fantastic dynasty assets.
Yeah, and I think DJ Moore is the one that was so like. There was so much talk of him in the offseason, right? Because people are like, oh, he's going to Chicago. It's worse. And I'm like, well, is it worse? I think it's actually a good thing. And I remember I said that back. And like my initial thought was, yes, it's a good thing. He gets field. So it's like, well, is it? It turns out it was a good thing. He had by far his most efficient year. And like we talked about, if he had Fields all year, he would have had an even better year. So overall, it's nice to see. You're talking about Mike Williams, who's he's boring, but he produces. So wherever he goes next year, as long as he's healthy, you're going to get fancy points. So he's probably dirt cheap right now. So if you want to pick him up on contending squads, probably the cheapest points you can buy. Like, I don't think there's a cheaper guy on the market than Mike Williams because he's old, he's injured, nobody wants him. So you could throw like a late second, probably get him no problem, right? And then you get down to the Michael Pittmans of the world, just Mr. Consistent. Like, he struggled at the end, but like you look at these fancy points, it's just consistently like right in that range. The ceiling wasn't necessarily there, but overall, really good. We got Brandon Ayuk, then our boy Tank Dell's right here. Interesting enough, he outscored both Chris Olave, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, all of these young guys right here. Tank Dell, man, the rookie came in out of nowhere, outscored him, and this is the CJ Stroud thing, right?
Yep.
And then it gets
elite
really ugly.
Performances. Elite.
He was fantastic. Like I think the thing with Dell is he does something that particularly nobody else in the offense can do in Houston. Like you saw Noah Brown, he can kind of somewhat replicate what Nico Collins can do.
Sure.
Nobody can replicate what Tank Dell does for the Houston offense. So I think that is the reason why I prefer him. But really, like they're neck and neck. I don't really care that much. But if I was going to pick and choose between those two wide receivers, I want the one guy that stands out for specific reasons, and I think that's Tank Dell in that offense. But overall, yeah, just give me both those guys. I'll be very happy. And then we have your boy, Calvin Ridley. He's chilling down here. He found his way. He made 13 NFL fantasy points. So started out hot, and it was just roller coaster, man.
Let's talk about Calvin Ridley because we were just chatting about, who was it? Ian Hardage just put out a video of all of the near touchdowns that Trevor Lawrence threw, and it was like 15 of them, right? Where half of them were, a third to a half were drops, and then some of them were like just the receivers just not getting their feet in, or by a hair, just missing and tapping on the sideline, or bobbling the ball, right? Or the ball being misplaced by Lawrence, right? He had kind of a window and he just barely missed it. So there were like 15 of these. 8 of those 15 were Calvin Ridley highlights. And you look at it, it's not, Ridley maybe had 2, what you could call drops. One was egregious. One should have been caught, but not an easy catch. The rest were like, he bobbled the ball as he's sliding out of bounds. He didn't tap his foot, right? So these are things that are correctable. These are things that, and look, we don't know what's going to happen with Ridley. His contract is up, right? He was just signed on the 1-year deal. So we don't know exactly if he's going to be back. I think if the Jaguars are smart, I think they invest in the offensive line and they bring Ridley back just for consistency. Ridley, Zay, Kirk, rehabbing Ingram. I mean, that's formidable with ETN in the backfield. And if they can just give Lawrence some time, let him process. Look, is he an elite NFL quarterback? Probably not. Is he an elite fantasy quarterback? Maybe not. But, if Calvin Ridley connects on 3 of those 8 near miss touchdown passes, he's Brandon Ayuk territory in terms of fantasy production this year. Otherwise, look, over 1,000 yards, absolutely crushed it. And, 229 fantasy points isn't anything to sniff at there.
No, I think if you told someone before the season this was going to be his total, he's going to give you basically 230 fantasy points, I think most people would take that, right? But just the hype got so out of control, really. He got pushed in the second round. I think the interesting thing is for the Jaguars, if they really want to pay, because like if they resign him to a long-term deal, it's going to cost them a second-round pick. So that's the decision you have to make if you're Jacksonville. It's like, do we want to do it with Ridley? Like we know what we have, or do we draft a young wide receiver to replace him? It's going to be like it'll cost you less money in the end, and you're not, because Ridley's 30 years old now, so that's also the decision you make. So they kind of have a very difficult decision to make. Kind of go with what Calvin Ridley, and if basically they're going to ask Lawrence what Lawrence wants to do, so it's probably going to be his call. But yeah, like I think they can change it up and then go there. And if Ridley ends up somewhere else, you don't know, could be better. Maybe he actually has like another outside wide receiver who opens it up, because sticking him on the outside and like having no one else till Zay Jones got back really hurt Ridley, because he's not as good as he was previously. He's still good, but like he wasn't that elite wide receiver he was before he got suspended and hurt. So if you can somehow move him around the field formation a little bit, change him up, but in the slot, get him off the line so he doesn't get pressed so much, I think that works well for him. So if he does go somewhere else where they have a good wide receiver, of course, like I know Houston has a lot of money. So if you add him to that wide receiver core, you add another weapon, like, you get him or something like that, or Indianapolis along with Pittman, like you find ways to get him in a different offense. Like I think that could work really well. So yeah, I don't mind really actually in his cost. He's probably not super, like, I don't know exactly where he's at Dynasty off the top of my head. I'm assuming he's top 30 wide receiver in Dynasty. So overall, I think it's an interesting kind of proposition to run the what if game with the Calvin Ridleys of the world.
Yeah. Plus if he, if he goes to a team that doesn't necessarily have a pass catching tight end, who's a target hog, doesn't necessarily have an elite pass catching running back who can receive those checkdowns, right? Then, he can just, like you're talking about, just stick him in the slot or move him around and just kind of manufacture more of those targets. He was getting those targets, but a lot of those on the boundary. And as if you go to check out Ian Hardett's Twitter page and just see, some of those receptions, he was the red zone guy and he was the boundary guy. And, and even still, he finishes the wide receiver 18 overall. So I think there's still more juice to squeeze out of Calvin Ridley from a fantasy perspective next year. And whether he stays or whether he goes, I think he's going to be value.
Yeah, and then you kind of get down to these young wide receivers. You have Reed here, you have Rashee Rice, you have Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, and they're all kind of grouped together. And I think obviously one of these guys next year is going to hit. Good luck telling me out of this group right now which one it is. My money was probably on Rice, but like
I'll tell you,
realistically, like
Wilson.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to talk about Garrett Wilson, like that's a whole.
Well, he's down there. I know he's not a rookie, but he's down there in that group right there. And
yeah, if you're giving me the option of those 5, I'm taking Garrett Wilson all day, every day. He was ridiculous. Like what he was able to get 1,000 yards with the worst quarterback situation of all time, like or one of. Like he freaking carried those quarterbacks to get those yardage. So yeah, with Aaron Rodgers next year, him and Breece Hall, like that's gonna be. Oh yeah, by the way, Jets, they need to fix that line and they need to get their wide receiver in there desperately because Jesus Christ, there is nobody else besides Garrett Wilson in that offense. Like the tight ends suck. The wide receivers suck. The offensive line sucks. So Aaron Rodgers will do a lot, but man, help that guy out. Like, get somebody else in there, please, New York.
I saw a mock that sent Brock Bowers to New York.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun. I want to see it. Like, if that happens, I think Bowers becomes head at 1 immediately. Like, he's going to New York. Like, I get it. Laporte is injured. You have Hawkinson injured. You have McBride's really the only other guy. Like, personally, I take McBride, but like I think Laporta consensus would probably be, or not Laporta, Bowers would be tight end 1. Yeah, that's fascinating. Like Jesus, that's a lot of skill position talent. Just 3 elite weapons, and you have a good quarterback. Wild. That's trouble. Good luck, AFC next year. Oh man, that's fun. Yeah, so who's like, I guess if we're looking at wide receivers, who's the guy that's probably the most disappointing? Because like Terry McLaurin once again, giving you 12 fantasy points, doing his just whatever, right? And then there's our boy T. Higgins right there down at 11. Like Drake London is another guy down at 10. Is there anyone in particular that stands out the most of like the wide receiver? You're like, this guy I don't want to draft next year because I don't want to deal with all this stuff going on with him.
Keep scrolling because I'm sure there's a couple down. Yeah, there he is. Hollywood Brown.
Okay. Yes.
I know. Listen, I think Hollywood is a near elite talent. Okay. And I'm not taking anything away from him in that regard. But who knows what's happening in Arizona, right? They're kind of saying all the right things at the moment. But you don't know what's going to happen on draft day or before in the offseason. Is Kyler staying or is he going? What's going to happen with, that front office and the staff? What's the turnover going to look like? Even Hollywood, right? Doesn't he have like some sort of out in his contract? I was hearing something about, that Hollywood may even be someone who isn't necessarily guaranteed to stick around for next season. So I don't know the situation, but what I do know is the situation is not good for Hollywood Brown. And, if Kyler's not there, if they bring in a rookie, right, that's a downgrade. If they, bring in, if they change the offense or whatever, that's a problem. You have to learn that. Certainly Trey McBride is there dominating targets. And I think they're rightly so kind of moving the offense through him. And then Arizona has to develop Michael Wilson, bring in another wide receiver because they don't have anybody outside of those 2 guys. Rondale is not the answer, even though he had some nice looking plays throughout the course of the year. And the running backs are old or nobody's Michael Carter. I don't know, but they just need to, really just overhaul this whole offense. The Arizona situation in general is a problem. And even though the talent is there, I can't trust Hollywood Brown anymore. And look, I know he's hurt, but those aren't exactly numbers that are lighting the world on fire either.
No, he's kind of hurt every year. So it's kind of like getting to the point of, is this a continuing thing with him each and every year? Because he deals with injuries more than most players. And maybe it's his size, maybe that's part of the issue, who knows? But like I would really like to get into more. But yeah, he's an unrestricted free agent, so he can go anywhere he wants. So he's not tied to Arizona. Let's play this scenario. If he is with Kyler, they still have Brock Bowers, and Brock Bowers was the alpha. Like I don't care what anybody says, the offense revolves
around McBride.
Trey McBride. I don't know my brain all over the place. But yeah, Trey McBride is the guy in that offense. And then they're theoretically going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. or whichever of these rookie wide receivers, right, top 10. So it's like Neighbors, Harrison Jr., whoever it is. That guy is likely going to take the wide receiver 1 spot because we've seen how this offense works. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't know where he ends up. I think it's probably best if he moves on from Arizona because I don't think he wants to be the the third option of that offense because he kind of sees what's the writing on the wall. So there's some offenses that could use him, but I think he's just the guy that's like will give you fantasy points, but isn't going to give you that elite ceiling we thought maybe was possible a couple years ago. So yeah, as much as I've liked him, he's been my boy for a long time because he was so devalued. I think it's kind of where the price isn't really worth the squeeze, for the juice. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. As much as I've liked him over the years, I'm kind of just like, you know what? He's not a difference maker. So he's getting older and he's dealing with injuries. So if he can get out for like a second, I'll flip him for a second overall.
Yeah. And I don't want to spend too much time on it because this is my number one crush that just totally crushed me. If you go a few spots further down from Hollywood, you get to Jerry Jeudy. Good God. I mean, everything was there. NFL teams believed in it so to the point where they drafted him over Justin Jefferson. I mean, Jerry Jeudy was and should have been and should still be an elite wide receiver asset. He's not every time, but a fair amount of times that I'm watching Jerry Jeudy on the field, he's wide open. And either they're not hitting him or they don't like the way he runs his routes, or I don't know what the hell it is with Jeudy, but I do know that Russell Wilson this season was hyper targeting Cortland Sutton everywhere he could, especially in the end zone. And without Dulcich, who was out for the whole season, Jeudy was primed to, take a leap, and it just never materialized. He was basically, high-priced Marvin Mims after a while, and it was really just such a disappointment from Jeudy. I hope he finds another team and is able to just kind of find a way to resurrect his career. I still think he can be a valuable asset, but from a dynasty perspective, he's almost dead, unfortunately.
So yeah, interestingly enough, their like target shares are almost identical, Sutton and Jeudy, but like you would not know that just because of how like dominant around the end zone Sutton was and just seemed more efficient than he was, right? So yeah, I think we're at the point with Jeudy, we kind of know who he is. Like he's a fine player, like he in the right scheme and he could be successful. He could be maybe a wide receiver too, but yeah, he just like I've always thought he runs so weird and like the way his body moves is different. And I don't necessarily think it's a good way, not like in a Garrett Wilson way where he runs different and is like a different athlete. It's just like something's off about the way he runs. Like his body does these weird things, and I'm just like, I've never really been into Jeudy. I've always been like, you know what? I'm just not into him. So yeah, I think it's time like the dynasty community, if they haven't already, probably adjust on him. Because like we're at year 4 or 5 now, so it's like
it's
you got to produce at some point, man.
It's
like,
over.
We need it from you as painful as it is. And he's I'm looking at his age right now. He's 25. Basically, he's gonna be 25 this year, so he's in that the Amon-Ra, CD age, and those guys. And if you're not showing that you're going to be like a true difference maker by this point, it's really hard at this point in your career to become one. So I think you could be fine NFL player, but fantasy wise, I'm just like not interested.
Shame. Yeah. On that note, let's stop talking about wide receivers unless there's anything else you want to mention.
No, we're good. I'm good.
Nice. All right, cool. So let's jump over to the tight ends now, and just kind of put a bow on the season from a skill position player perspective. And we are going to play a game I like to call Taysom Hill. It's because it's a multiple choice question. You get to decide whether you're going to pass it, run it, throw it, go, make a sandwich. It doesn't matter. Taysom Hill is do it all man for the New Orleans Saints. You never know if he's going to score 2 or 200 fantasy points in a given game. And hopefully he's just as enigmatic and mysterious as these questions will be. And I will try to stump you. Let's find out. Let's play a game called Taysom Hill. It is simply multiple choice for tight ends. Jesse, are you ready?
Oh, I am so ready for this. I am so ready.
Question 1. Travis Kelce finished as the tight end 3 in total fantasy points, but he tied TJ Hawkinson for the tight end 1 overall in points per game.
Yeah, so I actually know because go ahead.
Oh, go on. No, please.
I was gonna say I know he's the tight end 1 in points per game. I don't know about in total points because I was looking at this a little bit before.
So wait, so I haven't asked the question yet, and there's multiple
Okay,
choice.
sorry.
So I was just throwing that out because I thought that was interesting. But here we go. The question is, where did he finish among all tight ends in total targets?
Oh God. Is this multiple choice you said, or is this am I just firing? Oh,
Yeah,
you're
one
muted.
second. Okay. Yes, it's multiple choice. So the question is first, second, third, or fourth?
Okay. In total targets, ooh, I know his target share went down this year. All right, I'm just gonna go with it. I'll still say he's first in targets, and I feel like he's gonna bite me in the ass, but I'm gonna go with it. Number one, baby.
Incorrect.
No.
Do you have a second guess?
I will say let's go with the fourth. Let's just go all the way to the bottom, see what happens.
Fourth in total targets. Travis
What the hell,
Kelce
man?
was fourth in targets with 121. Evan Ingram was first. TJ Hawkinson
That's right.
second, and David Njoku third
King,
with
baby.
123 targets for David Njoku. League winner David Njoku. My
Imagine telling somebody
God.
that before the year.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. My fantasy teams are happy, but
we waited
geez.
6 years for the Njoku breakout? It finally happened.
Yeah, ridiculous. But yeah, Travis Kelce fourth in targets. That's not where you want to see him. Obviously, there was something going on there. I don't know if they're hiding, some sort of injury that he's dealing with, but or just Father Time is catching up. But he's visibly slower on the field. He's not coming out of his cuts sharply. Maybe he's got a couple of really nice crisp routes in a game, but then it deteriorates. So I don't really know what it is, but it's not looking good for the future of Travis Kelce. It seems like the decline has begun.
I think you're right. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's a sad time. Sad time for him.
It is.
Do not
I mean, he's still going to find the end zone plenty, and he might grab himself another ring this year. So so we'll see.
Yeah.
Still an amazing fantasy, NFL player.
The Tony Gonzalez and a career spectrum now, which ain't a bad thing, not a bad thing.
I mean, he could still Jimmy Graham his way to
Yes.
some touchdowns 5 years from now. So we'll see.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. All right. Question number 2. Darren Waller wildly underperformed this season, even on a points per game basis. Where did he finish among all tight end in fantasy points per game? 11th, 14th, 17th, or 21st?
Oh my God, 21st. There's no way it's 21st. I know he's outside top 12. Outside of that, I don't know. Let's go 17th and just say the old guy don't got it no more. 17th. Come on, baby.
Close. 14th is the correct answer, but only 9.4 points per game. We know if you're not a top 6 tight end, we really don't care about you, which is the sad bit about it. I had high hopes for Darren Waller coming into this season because I thought he was undervalued, and guess what? He wasn't. he just, listen, if Danny Jones stays healthy, if Waller stays healthy, maybe we're having a different conversation here. But yeah, just a gross underperformance, 9.4 points per game over 12 games. That's plenty to be able to kind of show what you got. And we might be talking about another tight end here who is on the decline. What do you think about Waller, Jesse?
Yeah, it's those injuries, man. Like that guy, if you look at his career injuries, it's like a rap sheet. It's just so many things every year. It's like a knee, a hamstring, a groin, every possible muscle you could hurt. I think Darren Waller has hurt all of those muscles. So yeah, it's nice in spurts, but man, you just can't trust it, unfortunately. Because he's what? Is he 30 something now? I think he's older. He is, what's his age? Like 32 basically at this point. So yeah, unfortunately, that year where he had 150 targets, where we had like 2020, like I don't think that's going to repeat itself, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
and listen, nothing but respect and props to Darren Waller for his sobriety and his whole story. But drugs are bad, kids, right? If you're trying to be an elite athlete and you're destroying your body, that stuff can catch up with you. But look, hopefully. He puts it all together, has a healthy season, and dominates next year. Anything is possible in the world of fantasy football, and that guy's awesome. And wish him the best of luck with that.
Same, 100%.
Question 3. David Njoku was the highest scoring tight end in the fantasy playoffs. That's weeks 15, 16, and 17. He had 60.2 points in that span. Which tight end was second in the fantasy playoffs in total points? Or so, is it points per game? Yeah, it's total points.
Tough.
Total points.
I don't know.
Oh,
Is
so
it?
sorry.
Oh,
We have multiple choice. We have multiple choice.
Okay.
So is it Sam Laporta, Trey McBride, Juwan Johnson, or Tucker Kraft?
Juwan Johnson's gonna be it, isn't it? Oh, god damn it. All right. I'm saying Juwan Johnson and just
Yeah, you know the test maker too well. It's Juwan Johnson. 16.4 points per game. So Laporta was third, McBride fifth, Kraft seventh. But Juwan Johnson dominated over the last 2 weeks, I believe. And just absolutely, if you were starting him, I don't know who was, but maybe you were in a deep league. He's all you had, and you had to start him. I mean, he won you some championships if you had to plug him in there.
What do you have? Like, is half of his point total in those couple of weeks right there?
Pretty much. Unbelievable effort from Juwan Johnson. This was the Juwan Johnson we were promised at the beginning of the season. It never came to fruition, but it does beg the interesting question of what do we do with him next year? I mean, you're not assuming he's going to be a top 6 or 8 guy, but is he a guy you take at the back end of a redraft, or throw a 4th round pick at in Dynasty just to see if he turns into some like consistently decent option at tight end?
I mean, you could do worse than going that route. It's tough. I'm not really sure his contract situation, to tell you the truth. I think he's locked in for the Saints for a few years, but I don't know. But I mean, yeah, it just depends what the Saints do, right? Like, they're gonna bring back Carr. That contract, I don't know. Like, people talk about them trading him away. I don't know who would take on that contract. Kind of similar to Russell Wilson, right? But somebody might. So yeah, you could do worse than taking him. If you do the fade tight end until the end, you could be your 20th round pick and just hope it works out. But I don't know, man. I feel like it's kind of that point with Juwan Johnson. Like, we said this with Njoku too. It's like, I'm done with him. Maybe not. I don't know. So yeah, I guess you could talk me into that if you're desperate.
I don't think I will, but what I will be doing is fading the best shape of his life narrative from here to eternity.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Zeke 2025. We're gonna hear it here first.
Best shape of his life. Who's in the best shape of his life? Taysom Hill, like he is every year, just somehow stealing games and hearts of fantasy players everywhere. God, these best ball guys are really just you just got to leave them alone in redraft and dynasty. You just can't play them. Gabe Davis, Taysom Hill, like, draft those guys in best ball and like leave them alone. Otherwise, right? It's just nothing but heartbreak.
It's going to hit at some point. You just don't know what weeks it's going to hit. So it's just like, good luck, sorry. And then Taysom Hill puts it together for 5 weeks, and then you don't hear from him the rest of the year. So yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly that. Go figure.
That's it. Question number 4. We talked about Juwan Johnson. We talked about Taysom Hill. Let's talk about Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham had 4 touchdown receptions this season for the New Orleans Saints. How many total receptions did he have? Did he have 6, 9, 11, or 15?
I don't think he had double digits. I'm just going to go there. 6 feels absurd, but it's almost like absurd to the point where it's going to be the right answer. So yeah, let's just go with the most ridiculous possible answer. 6 receptions, 4 touchdowns. I like the sound of it. Let's do it.
On 7 targets, 6 receptions,
so good.
and 4 touchdowns. Jimmy Graham. Wow. Well, I mean, look, how old is Jimmy Graham? I don't even know. He's got to be pushing 40 years old at this point. But like, I don't know if he's physically able to be on the field, more than he was. But if he's got 7 targets and put up 4 touchdowns on 6 receptions, get that man on the field more. Like, what are we doing here in New Orleans?
Just throw him on the goal line package. It's just absurd. I mean, he's what, 6'6", like 260? He's a tank. Yeah. Unfortunately, I miss the days of peak Jimmy Graham back in like the early 2010s where he was a true difference maker. Been a long time since we've seen that guy. But yeah, touchdown king, Jimmy Graham. Give it up to him. I'm curious how many career
Unbelievable.
touchdowns he has now. Now I want to find out.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe that was the whole situation. Maybe that was just getting him up in career touchdowns. Unbelievable. And you know what? I do wish that the Saints had made the playoffs. They were vying for a spot, or they were close. I
Mhm.
forget what their
Yeah,
situation was, but yeah, it would have been nice to see Jimmy Graham catch 3 touchdowns in the
that'd be
wild card game,
incredible.
and then the Saints would get destroyed in the following week. But
Yeah, be good stuff. Him and
uh,
Taysom Hill touchdown apiece. Yeah,
Taysom Hill would throw him. Taysom, they just
yeah,
throw back and
exactly right.
forth.
That'd be
Ridiculous.
fantastic.
Absolutely ridiculous. The Saints tight end situation, I think we've decided to stay away. Stay away.
Yeah, smart move.
All right, 2 more questions here. Question 5. All of the following tight ends finished as a tight end 1 by points per game this year, except Jake Ferguson, Cole Kmet, Dalton Kincaid, Dalton Schultz.
It's got to be Kincaid. He was so bad down. Like as someone who's a big time Kincaid fan, he was so terrible down the stretch. I was like, we got into the rankings. I was like, he's like my tight end 30. Like you can't fucking play this guy. It's got to be him, man. That offense fell apart with Kincaid. It's got to be Kincaid.
It is him, but he was the tight end 13, right? So he
So close.
crushed in the middle of the season and was able to, and it also speaks to the tight end position a little bit that he finished as tight end 13. But yes, Kmet, Ferguson, and Schultz, all back end tight end 1s. I like them because of their youth and all of their situations, at least as of right now, before Justin Fields gets jettisoned into the free agent pool ether or whatever happens there. But all their situations look pretty good for returning. So those guys could ascend. We like Kincaid in Dynasty as well. So all 4 of these tight ends are looking good. Dalton Schultz is just a guy, but he's just a guy with a phenomenal quarterback situation once again. So he's
Yeah,
going
I
to
mean, like
continue to be relevant.
Kincaid was really good for rookies. If you look at, he was 4th receiving yards the past 2 decades.
Yep.
So like, I get it. It was ugly, but he was good for a rookie tight end. I think that kind of gets devalued because of how good like Laporta, and even McBride in the second year. People are like, oh yeah, Kincaid's disappointing. It's like, yeah, but your expectations should not be that absurd where you're depending on a rookie tight end to be, a true difference maker. Give him some time,
Very
folks.
true.
Give him some time.
Very true. Yeah, and we'll see what happens with Gabe Davis. If he sticks around or if they want to develop Khalil Shakir, who looked good in spurts. I think that would be the best possible scenario for Kincaid, just to get Gabe and his ridiculous 5 targets a game out of Buffalo. But then obviously we have the situation with Dawson Knox being tied up to that crazy, ridiculous 4-year contract they gave him last year. Like what what were they doing? Maybe they didn't expect Kincaid to fall to them, but geez.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. They're like, yeah, we got Knox. It's fine. It's like, ooh, then Kincaid shows up. They're like, you know what? Instead of a rookie wide receiver, let's draft the tight end. And I'm like, dude, Buffalo, come on, man. They have it's like a very weird personnel like decision they're making over there. They're like, we like these running backs, we like these tight ends, we like these guys, and I'm like, dude, I don't know. This is just an odd offense for Josh Allen.
Yeah. But then again, Josh Allen, not your traditional quarterback. So, as long as these guys can, and Kincaid has shown this ability if they can work with him on the improv bits when Allen's running around back there and get open, he's going to find them. I think that's one area where Davis struggles, right? He's more of that deep threat, straight line guy. And, if you have Diggs and Shakir and obviously Cook is a check down and Kincaid running around and helping Allen improvise, that's probably best case scenario, but we'll see what happens in Buffalo in the offseason.
Yeah. Hopefully they push him down the field a little bit more so he's not just a check down guy because he has the athleticism, he has talent, right? So yeah, I'm very intrigued to see him next year. Like I am still very much, Kincaid myself.
I agree. All right, final question here. Question number 6. This tight end had the same number of touchdown receptions as Adam Troutman, Tommy Tremble, Harrison Bryant, and Mo Alley Cox.
Jesus Christ. It's going to be somebody good that just didn't get touchdowns.
Is
I'm
it?
thinking of it like, okay, go.
Is it Kyle Pitts, Trey McBride, Dallas Goedert, or Gerald Everett?
All right, so I'm here for some Kyle Pitts slander. So as much as I love Kyle Pitts, let's slander the man one last time while we can before he gets a situation quarterback upgrade. So Kyle Pitts, Mr. No Touchdowns. Let's go.
If you had a second guess, who would your second guess be?
Oh, I would say probably Goddard. I don't think he scored many touchdowns either. Is it Goddard?
Makes sense. And then do you have a third guess?
Well, I guess we will go with. I'm blanking on who the other two guys are at this point. I can't remember.
McBride or Everett?
Everett got a couple touchdowns. I will say McBride then.
Yeah, it's all of them. All of those tight ends had the same number of TD receptions as Adam Troutman, Tommy Tremble, Harrison Bryant, and Mo Alley Cox, 3 touchdowns, just highlighting the fact that what the hell tight ends, you want the guys who have volume, but Trey McBride, thankfully, was able to volume his way to an amazing looking second half. Once they just kicked Zach Ertz to the curb, finally ending that experiment. Dallas Goedert, if not for the injury, he was very involved, right? I hate that because it impinges on all my Devonta Smith shares and what he can do in that offense when Goddard is around. But yep, Pitts, McBride, Goddard, and Everett all had 3 touchdown receptions, and I think everyone expected all of those guys to have more than that. So it is what it is at tight end. You hope they get in the end zone, and those guys didn't this year.
Yeah, I mean, with the no touchdowns, like from the bye week on, I was just looking it up. McBride averaged almost 15 points per game. So yeah, he was pretty good. Like, yeah. So it's give me some touchdowns next year, please.
Exactly. I think the bigger story is that Adam Troutman, Tommy Tremble, Harrison Bryant, and Mo Alley Cox had 3 touchdowns this season.
No, Mo Alley Cox is just a giant human. He is massive. You see him on the field, you're like, yeah, no wonder that guy played basketball. He's a freaking giant.
All right, here's a bonus question. List all of the tight ends on the Indianapolis Colts roster.
Oh my God, they got Kylan Granson. There's another guy. So there's another guy I can't remember. I keep forgetting. It's
Alec Ogletree.
There's like a Will somebody. I can't remember his name. It's gonna bother the crap out of me. You know what I'm talking about?
Will? I don't know if it's Will, but yes. Wait. All right. So Kylan Granson, Mo Alley Cox, Alec Ogletree.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's Will Mallory. That's who it is.
Oh, Mallory. Yes, of course.
And they got Jelani Woods. It's like all Jelani Woods. Dudes.
Yep.
God. There's so many guys.
What are they gonna do? You just can't roster tight end. I mean, I know that some are hanging on to hope of Jelani Woods becoming a thing just because of his freak athleticism. You can't. It's like kind of what we were talking with the Saints, right? If these guys are just on the field doing strange things and specific packages and scenarios in the red zone, you just can't have that. You need a guy who has it all to himself. And we just finished talking about Kincaid, who once Knox was back, sadly, you just was unstartable. So you need a guy who's got the entire target package of tight end to himself.
Yeah, like Woods has the athleticism, but like he ain't got much else going for him. So I think we could just, until he shows he can play a significant role in the offense, like it's just nothing but unfortunate.
Yeah, agree. And thankfully, David Njoku was a monster, even with Harrison Bryant. I think who caught 2, maybe all 3 in one game. Those touchdowns. Yeah. But I wonder what they're going to do next year. I mean, obviously you'd love Flacco to come back just for those weapons. If he can still sling it, that offensive line is good enough. But you have no idea what's happening with Deshaun Watson. We have no idea. Talk about a contract that you can't get out of. I mean, they just buried themselves with that one. And they're a favorite to potentially win the AFC East. They look like the best team. Their defense is phenomenal. Their offense is clicking even without Nick Chubb. And it's a credit to that offensive line. It's a credit to Joe Flacco and the fact that he's able to sit back there and pick apart defenses. But what are they going to do long term at quarterback? I mean, this is the team that should contend for multiple years, and they've hamstrung themselves. So,
yeah, I think you at least got to bring Flacco back to give him a shot in case Deshaun Watson doesn't have it anymore because he's dealing with injuries and all that fun stuff. But you bring Flacco back, and you just compete. And you go, guess what? Deshaun Watson, if you're the guy, beat out Joe Flacco. Because honestly, as fun as Flacco's been, he has not been that great of a quarterback. Like there's a lot of EPA issues and stuff with the turnovers. So, you just compete and do what it does. And if he takes that step forward, then you have that quarterback and you're good. And if not, then you're like, well, fuck, we are screwed with this contract. So you find out one way or the other, right?
Nick Chubb, you 100% yet? You 100% yet?
Exactly. Come back, Nick. We need you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice to see Stefanski adjusting to an offense where they're not like, we can't run anymore. We're not going to do that. And then they just fully unleash the passing attack. So that'll be nice to see next year. Maybe they tweak it a little bit more with Watson if he's healthy, and you get some more downfield, you get some more offense, and it's a better team. And if it comes together next year with that defense, they could be a very, very good squad.
God, I hope they just draft all defensive players and just go full God mode on defense. Give me three more guys in the secondary in Cleveland. Right. Let's see what that looks like.
Oh, what's their contract situation? Yeah, they're already 12 negative in the cap. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they work out the season. But that's not.
Yeah, because they just paid Grant Delpit before he went on season-ending IR for 4 years.
Hurts, man. Brutal.
Man, we'll see. But he'll be back next year.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at some tight ends. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that might be a good idea, huh? All right, let me go present here.
Wrap it up. I mean, listen, the conversation will be short because we hit most of the relevant ones already.
Yeah, so we got, as you can see, Kelsey was somehow still the points per game leader at tight end. I don't know how he did it. He was still too good.
Magic.
But it's slowly coming to the end. Yeah, you saw kind of end really just trickle down towards the end of the year. Hawkinson was awesome. Laporta was awesome. Ingram leading the league in targets at tight ends. Fortunately, we had Andrews, which really just kills us. That one just stings, man, because that offense would be so good with Andrews.
He was clicking.
Really I know, it was so good. But, Lamar's awesome. So hopefully Lamar can carry that squad. But, they've lost a ton of guys. And then you talked about Njoku, George Kittle, who just seems like a guy that's flying under the radar these days.
Yeah.
Another 200 plus fantasy points. You know what I'm saying? He's going to produce again next year. He's probably my favorite player in maybe the history of the NFL, but up there. He's I just love myself some George Kittle.
Yeah.
Him and Debo are two of my favorite all-time players.
Yeah.
So me hating San Francisco, I still like those players. But then we get, Ferguson, Schultz, Goddard, all of these guys kind of doing their thing, hit or miss. And then, you got our boy Waller. And then it really starts to just fall off where once you get past Kincaid, it's just really just kind of guys having a few weeks. We had a little vintage midseason spike with Logan Thomas, Gerald Everett finding his way in touchdowns, Zach Ertz at the beginning of the year, and then it does not matter. Down here, it's just whatever.
No, you can't. You can't.
Yeah.
Chig, Chig is, there's some potential down here, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say Fryermuth's probably the most disappointing guy if he's that far down due to injury. Mayer having no quarterback. But if you look at Likely, you pair his stats at the beginning of the year with Andrews, and then you have a legit tight end and Likely's filling that role. So, that's that tight end role for Baltimore. It's fantastic. And then there's Knox, and it's just I don't know. We're really just scraping the bottom of the barrel down here. There's
Noah Gray,
nobody.
Noah Gray, 70 fantasy points this season.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the over-under was at the beginning of the year, but I would definitely take the under on 70.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you what.
Oh, yeah.
There's the Seahawks, a random Seahawks tight end making an appearance. There's multiple ones. Noah Fant, people still I don't know why, to tell you the truth. But they're oh, yeah, he's a freaking tank. You look at Noah, he has the athleticism and all that stuff, but you watch him on the field, it's just, he runs like he is a freaking tank. I'm dude, you should look like it's just, I don't like it. So you'll hear some offseason hype from him. Just fade him. Trust me. You don't want to know. Situation.
Oh, yeah. Let's take a look back at the top and see. We hit most of these guys. Obviously, Laporta came out of nowhere. Evan Ingram leading the league in targets, man.
Wild.
Just awesome. Just a really awesome effort, especially given the fact that, look, I know Zay Jones was out for a while. I know Christian Kirk going down really kind of helped benefit him. As you can see after the bye, really from week 13 he had some monster performances with Kirk out. So that really helped his fantasy stock. But, going forward next year, Ingram's a year older. We have Kirk back to full health. Like you said, if it's not Ridley, it's going to be another, wide receiver who comes in. Parker Washington looked really good. So I don't know that Ingram is able to repeat this Although I still think he's a phenomenal talent and in a really good position.
Yeah, it seems like people don't really trust the ceiling from Ingram, but I don't know, man. This feels like a pretty good year where he's basically
Oh, it's fantastic.
split. Yeah, I know. It's like not quite points per game tight end one, but he's real close up there. But total points 230, like that's I think he's gonna be fine. He'll push over 100 hard as long as he's healthy. Like he's had injuries in the past, so as long as he stays healthy, like a lot of these guys, like I think he'll be a top 12 tight end, no problem. It's just maybe he might not be tight end 2, or in points per game, he's like tight end 4. Like that might not happen again because he had some injuries working in his favor. Ridley struggled, like you talk about. But yeah, I think he's just a solid under the radar tight end for contenders. If somebody has him on a like rebuilding roster, go get Evan Ringham, and you have him next year, and you have started in tight end. Which I know we talk about the depth of tight end position, but it does fall off rather quickly. Like when you get down to even Ferguson, Schultz, and Goddard, like they're not super trustworthy. So you want the guys that also give you the high floor with the ceiling, and I think that very much that.
Jesse, here's the $1 million question: what are we doing with the Arthur Smithless Kyle Pitts?
So for me, it's all about his dynasty value. So like if he's already valued as like a top 3, top 4 tight end for some people, I'm not paying that. Because like why would I pay that if unless you're expecting him to just go absolutely nuclear, where he's like a wide receiver, like he's supposed to be giving you 16, 17 fantasy points per game. I don't know. There's just a lot of like uncertainty and mystery. Personally, like I would just rather buy into someone like Andrews because like he's older, he's injured, and he's gonna be cheaper. So like if I'm gonna go that route. But if I'm going to buy the young, promising tight end, just give me the McBride, the guy already with the role who's been really good. You know what I'm saying? But if you can get a discount on Kyle Pitts, sure. I think I have like 1 or 2 shares that I held on to just because of how talented of a player I think he is, right? But that injury, like he didn't look the same this year. He's still dealing with injury issues throughout the entire year. So after watching the tape, that was what scared the crap out of me. I was like, the dude can't turn a certain way. Like you see all his routes, they're going left. He was not going right. Like, so until he gets his knee figured out an issue, like, I don't know. So I'm really just going to like wait and see with him. How do you feel about him?
Yeah, I hear you. I will say this though. If like a Ben Johnson decides to go to Atlanta, if they really if they say our defense is in a really good spot and we're just going to, we have all these weapons, we're going to bring in an offensive guy. I don't know, Bieniemy, right? If we're talking about tight end production, I mean, if they decide to bring in an offensive coach, Harbaugh, who knows what's going to happen, right? And obviously the second piece of that, and they can get a competent quarterback along with that head coach. I mean, it could be wheels up, right? Kirk Cousins. I mean, you don't need Justin Fields. You don't necessarily even need an elite guy. You could bring in, you could go get Gardner Minshew, and he's going to be miles ahead of whatever was happening this year, quarterback in Atlanta. So man, I mean, you go just break the bank and go get Joe Flacco. Why not?
Do it, baby. Let's go.
Deshaun Watson. They wanted Deshaun Watson all along. Who knows? Maybe they can somehow finagle a deal with Watson's consent. Oddly enough, to kind of get over there. Who knows? But they need obviously now a head coach. They need obviously from the beginning of last season a quarterback, and just got to figure it out. Mike, we love you too.
Props to Mike for that one. But I think it really depends on like it's like a double situation, right? It's not just the quarterback, it's also the scheme. So if you're getting a play caller who's willing to open up the offense, and part of that issue with Arthur Smith was like literally like these are the quarterbacks. Why should I trust these quarterbacks, right? Because they are terrible. So yeah, if I'm buying the personnel, like I think Bijan and London are the two I'm first buying because like those are the focal points of the offense. We haven't seen it from Kyle Pitts the last couple of years because of injuries and stuff. But yeah, if he's the cheapest out of the bunch and I can get a discount on him, like, you know what I'm saying? If somebody's selling him for like early second round pick, hell yeah, I'll do that. But like, I just, from what I've seen from Kyle Pitts, people are absolutely like being like, oh, okay, Kyle Pitts is unleashed now. So that's kind of just my worry. So it's all dynasty value related for me. But yeah, if you get a deal, go get him. The guy's freaking, what is he, 23? Like he's super young. Like, he's talented. As long as he's healthy, I'm on board with you.
Man. Well, that's it. We're going to wrap it here. It was a very interesting fantasy season. We had a very interesting recap with some games. Jesse crushed them surprisingly, with my ridiculous questions. Well done. To him, well done to you for winning some fantasy championships. And we'll be here all off season long and with you next season for the hunt for a new ship. So for Jesse, I'm Jeremy, and we will see you next time.
All right, take care, folks.